Welcome to another episode. Today, we're going to talk about something fun. I know AI is pretty cool and all, but how about robots? We're going to talk about robots that are extremely useful for big scale or utility scale solar projects. And I brought here Derek, who is very innovative to say the least, and he is going to introduce his company and cool products he's built so far. Derek, why don't you introduce yourself and the company you represent?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I'm the CEO and founder of OnSight Technology, and we build robots, and we also have cameras that utilize AI. And so everything we do is very cutting edge. And we have a lot of our equipment deployed and working for customers today for some of the largest utilities in the US. And we've been building it for about 2.5 years now. Really smart team. We're based out of Sacramento, California, and we have robots deployed all over the country. It's been a lot of fun building the company.
Let me share my screen real quick so viewers can see it as well. And then you can explain to me how in the world you say a small and tiny and by mighty team was able to build some cool robots like this. And I love your content strategy as well. You share the where they what kind of threats they were able to prevent all across your clients. So essentially this robot, yeah, tell us about what it's his name is Bulldog, right? Or its name is Bulldog.
Yeah, this is the Bulldog robot, and really prior to the Bulldog robot, there's two ways to inspect a utility solar farm. People would do it with like drones, aerial flyovers with thermal cameras, or you'd have to walk the site, which these sites are huge, right? It's like it would take miles, 10 miles a day to inspect this thing. And so I've had 20 years in the solar industry. I knew the issues on these utility solar sites were on the ground and underneath the solar panels, and that drones were missing a lot of this. And it wasn't really practical to have people walking around the solar sites because most of these sites are located where you're at, like Palm Desert and these places. It was 120 degrees outside. So it doesn't make sense to have people, it's very dangerous to have people walking around those temperatures, let alone your phones don't work and kind of all these other issues of recording all that data and information, collecting it and getting it back to, a work order system that you can take action on. So our robots honestly drive around the sites. They'll take pictures of issues. We'll use AI to analyze those pictures, GPS locate the images and the data that come with it. And then all that information gets delivered to the customer so that when they're going to go fix an issue, number one, they know how to prioritize it. So it's such high quality imagery that they know, like, is it something they need to fix tomorrow, or can they wait a month? Or scheduling when you're operating an asset that big is a big deal to manage all of your resources. And so we give them a level of severity. We do some diagnostics and some analysis on what those issues are. And then when they receive them, they know like how much it's going to cost them, what resources are necessary, what tools they need. And it's really a big difference versus an aerial flyover where maybe they just get a picture from 5,000 feet in the air. That makes it a lot harder for them to, they still have to physically then go out there and check to see what the problem is, where we could give the entire story from the ground right there from the robot. We seem to be having some pretty good traction with that today. We have another product, and you brought it up there briefly when you were browsing our website, which is the Owlcam. Really proud of the Owlcam because it's solving a big problem in the solar industry. So this is a camera with actually has a lot of the same architecture of the robot, but it's a camera that has actually 4 cameras on it that cover a full 360-degree view. And what it does is it utilizes a proprietary algorithm to detect smoke or fire on your solar sites. And when it identifies that issue, it'll take a picture of it. It'll text you an alert to your phone, and then you can dispatch people quickly. But if you think about even your building right now that you're in, if that roof is on fire, you won't know until the roof caves in. And so it's kind of a blind spot on whether it's our buildings or utility solar farms. All of these electrical connections are up there. Solar panels don't turn off when the sun's hitting them, right? They just keep operating. So when a fire starts, it's tough to stop it. And these sites oftentimes are remote and there's nobody on the site at all. So no people, very remote, often connected to other dry grass areas where if a fire starts, it could get out of control. Just basically due to the fact that it was able to get so big because nobody knew about it early enough. But if you can detect the fires early, they're really easy to put out. So that's what the Owlcam does. We've had tremendous success with that since we launched it back in June.
I love it. Yes, it sounds like they both go really well together if you think about it, because you can have both views. Obviously, solar is producing energy, which can cause fire hazards in, like you as you've mentioned, in certain areas more than others. But also, if solar is a financial instrument, especially those larger scale uh, systems, that is an extra hazard that you're actually preventing with those with the Bulldog, the robot, and the Owl, because you're helping the investors not to lose money. Because if the system would go bad for weeks or months without knowing, or if obviously needs replacement quickly, so you know exactly where to start, what to do, and like you said, you can have your forecast of what needs to be fixed. And I highly encourage everyone who's listening and interested in that to check out your LinkedIn profile with the pictures you post. It's actually very, very detailed. I mean, you would have to be have an open eye for everything to, when you walk through the site, to actually notice certain things that the robot is noticing, like loose cables or the connections that are melted because there's some problems there. So it's very interesting to see that, and how it picks up even the smallest details in your huge scale solar installation. So that's definitely not to ignore. Something not to ignore.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you checking out the LinkedIn. That's what we try to do, is show the capabilities of the robot. And, it's got really high resolution cameras on it that can zoom in and give you very detailed pictures of what's happening on the side. It has a thermal camera, so we can see any thermal anomalies, which, if there's a bad connection of something, it's typically going to heat up. We can then identify that, and then we can zoom in with the optical camera, and we can take a picture and figure out exactly what happened. And then again, we could determine the level of severity, or what tools are needed, or how much it's going to cost to fix, or how much energy will be lost if that connection disconnects, and or if it's going to start a fire or something else dangerous that we need to get to the site and fix right away. I don't know if you saw one of my latest posts. The robot went out, identified an issue, and the technician fixed it the next day. It was really easy. The technician knew exactly what tools to bring and knew where the issue was. It had all this background and metadata on that particular issue, which is really tough to beat with, compared to a human walking around with a phone in 120 degrees and putting notes in. Our cameras are way higher resolution than any phone you can carry. And the robots, they live out there on the sites. They're 100% remote. So it'll be a big solar farm. We go drop off the robots and we operate all of them back from our headquarters here in Sacramento.
Of it. And I agree. I've done everything you just mentioned, walking around the sites and installing at 120 degrees. Your phone will die. You can't
Yep.
even communicate. And if you are missing a part because you were not prepared or whatever, you didn't know what you have to have prepared on the side. It's obviously there's a lot of back and forth that is not needed in that case, because you can save yourself time. And also, I had many instances, or not many, but a handful of instances that I remember when, for example, the rapid shutdown box that is meant to shut down the solar system from sending energy to the grid or whatever system you have, the panels, and it was on fire for like a day. I feel like it was melting slowly, burning slowly, expanding, and luckily there was no leaves or anything that could catch fire surrounded it. So we were able to find out that the system wasn't working, get on site, and found burning rapid shutdown box.
Yeah.
So that can escalate quickly. So if you can be responsive, and you can have smart tools that leverage AI and communication, because that communication aspect is so important, that you can notify the right person immediately. That's so key, because it can be devastating in some cases when it goes out of hand.
Yeah, and there's other ways to detect fires outdoor, but what we really like about cameras is that, any other device that doesn't have a visual representation, if it sends off an alert, you still don't know if the alert's real or not, or if it's a false alarm or what happened. Where with the camera, worst case scenario, you log in and you can see for yourself and make a decision. So, a lot of these rooftop solar systems are huge too. So you're talking 200,000 solar panels on a roof, or 100,000 or 50,000, which means it's 100,000 connectors on the side. Like, so 1% failure, and you can have an issue. And it may not even be from the original installers or anything having to do with the solar. It could be, uh, we've seen like bullet holes like hit the solar panels from somebody, shoots a gun in the air and comes down, or throws a rock, or any of these things. can damage the solar panel and start a fire. And if you look at the total cost of the building, this happened with Amazon one time. What happens if you have to shut down an Amazon distribution center? How much money are you losing there? Probably more than the solar system ever produces, right? Let alone your ability to ever turn the system back on. How do you feel comfortable turning it back on without some level of fire detection? So we're really happy with the Owl and the confidence it gives our customers to put solar on their assets because we think it's a great thing. We just think there should be some protection and oversight on that.
I agree. No, that's definitely can prevent a lot of chaos in someone's life, investor's life, and the operators and owners, project owners' lives. Now, Derek, I can imagine you were born, growing up, you dreamt about building robots for solar farms, and you wanted to have cameras. Like, what? Tell us about the story. How did it all start? Where did the idea come to join the solar space? And from that perspective, from that era, how to say it, perspective, not perspective. What word am I looking here for? From that angle, let's say, where everyone else went the simplest route. I want to install solar or get projects and then sell the projects. You wanted to create something new, something extremely innovative. We connected last year. I've yet to come across anything like it. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting that you found that niche. But how did it originate?
Yeah, job ever was in solar when I was 20 years old. I was in the field installing solar panels, just like you said you were, right? And eventually you got to run a crew, and then you become a manager. And, I ran a design engineering team for a long time, did some project management, really just worked my way up through different companies until I started my own company, which was called Sun System Technology at the time. We built that up to over 500 technicians nationwide. We sold that to a company called NovaSource, which was the largest O&M company in the world at the time for solar. Then really robots, I don't think they were on anybody's radar 5 years ago, right? To where they are today with humanoids and all the things you can do. So it's really just recently that came to mind for me. It was really, I was looking at all these different drone companies and I was looking at the reports and I was like, man, they're really missing where all the problems are. The problems are on the ground. And it was actually my kids and I, we were at a garage sale and there was a little DJI ground robot that had a camera on it that you could operate with your cell phone and like cruise around the house and spy on your family members or whatever, right? And so I was like, man, you really just need a big one of those. So, if I get an idea in my head, I'll just keep going until I figure it out. And that's really what this project has been. Was eventually I figured out how to get a bigger robot, and I know nothing about robots, right? So a lot of it was a lot of fun for me because I got to go learn about all the robots, and eventually built the first one in my garage, raised a little bit of cash, and then brought some people in. Now we have 3 different PhDs on our team that are brilliant guys that do all the robots and the autonomous driving and programming and all of that. But it's really some of the advances. The reason you're seeing all this robot stuff now, whether it's humanoids or different robots in the field or autonomous driving, there's been some really big advances in compute. So, we use NVIDIA computers on every single one of our robots. That level of compute power and speed that they have now, that didn't even exist a few years ago. The cameras, the sensors, the battery life, we utilize wireless charging for our robots. Wireless charging wasn't a thing 3 to 4 years ago. So our robots just drive up to a wireless charger to recharge. There's no hard connection. So it's really the late connectivity. We'll use Starlink to connect to our robots. That wasn't a thing too long ago, right? So it's really all of these technologies together are making this possible today to actually operate robots 100% remote all over the country. Like right outside my window right now, we're driving robots in Florida and North Carolina, thousands of miles away from right here with almost 0% latency. Which, you'll go see a Tesla self-drive itself or a Waymo, and that's impressive. But, that's billions and billions of dollars in a long time to get to that point. We were able to get it done in, a couple of years on a way lower budget. Really great team that worked really hard on things, but it's also a lot of the other technology that's making the path easier. So you're going to see, and that's what I keep telling everybody, I've seen the progress from one year to the next. You're going to see exponentially more sophisticated robots that can drive longer and perform better and are more accurate, et cetera, over a period of time. So really exciting place to be right now, let alone you start applying AI to that and the robots start learning from themselves. Like the highest echelon for us with the robots is where the robot's actually out on the site thinking on its own. It's figuring out where it thinks it should inspect versus last time. If there's issue, it's determining its own routes. It's letting you know what it thinks are specific areas that could be more dangerous than others. Maybe it's doing security at night, but it's always staying busy and thinking on its own and developing its own path. That's really where things are going. We're not too far away from that.
Wow, I thought my iRobot is smart for being able to the Roomba or what was the
Those are pretty good. I mean, they've invested probably $1 billion in developing some of that technology, right? That's just for your house. Yeah, so that's actually really advanced technology in those. But hopefully we can get we've got a little bit of a higher budget for these utility solar sites, so we'll have some pretty sophisticated robots out there, I think.
I bet. I'll be curious. I haven't done my research to as far as what's the total addressable market audience would be for those larger scale solar systems where
Yeah.
that could benefit from it the most. But what was your go-to market strategy? I can imagine there's interest as soon as you showed up to someone's door. There was interest for it right away because how unique it is, and pretty much unheard of, like you said, for the last couple of years, right? It's very new. You see it only in a TV or on TV or somewhere like expos in Shanghai or Hong Kong or somewhere in China where they have those crazy robots that do all kinds of things. But what was your go-to-market experience in the beginning?
Yeah, really, I had really strong domain experience. So I knew where the problems were. I knew the customers. I knew the challenges with it. I knew the value proposition where, a lot of people start the other way around. They have a lot of really smart engineers. They build a robot and then they got to figure out what the robot's going to do. I always knew what the robot needed to do. It was more getting the technical expertise to get it to that point to actually execute. So we went to a trade show. First time we finally got like one robot up and working. We went to a trade show and we got a lot of attention and sold the robot like on the spot. And they were actually like, hey, could you make it to Arizona in 1 week? So I had to go buy a trailer for the robot and I drove it all the way to Arizona and we got it out there. We did a test and they liked it. And so they wanted another one. This time they wanted it in Texas. So I had to drive all the way from Sacramento to Texas to deliver another one. So building the company was you only got a couple people, so you got to deliver the robots, you got to drive them there. Like everybody, says they like startup life, but it's actually the hardest part of the whole company is kind of getting the plane in the air. It's a lot of effort, a lot of hands-on, and then you're managing the customers and you're raising the capital, and there's a lot of stuff you got to do all at once in the very beginning of the company. And fortunately enough, we had a great team. And robots, you never know if they're going to work the very first time you turn them on. We had a couple pilots where if those didn't work at that time, I don't know if we'd be where we are today, but call it luck or whatever it is. But they did work, and the customers were happy, and now we've got a ton of them out in the field.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, how in the beginning I was so frustrated with that little iRobot because every time I left home, I set it up, and 2 minutes later, I get a notification that it got stuck or it
Yeah.
something, it hit a vase or something I forgot to hide, and there's more mess than it's supposed to clean up before that.
It's a lot harder than it looks. That's why, we've been pretty open with our marketing. We show everything we do on LinkedIn and more or less saying, hey, look, if you could do it, you do it too. You guys, we're showing you exactly what we're doing. We're showing you the value. And to your point, nobody's done it yet because it's a lot harder than people think it is. I mean, you need to have a field service team that can service them and take care of them. You got to be able to deploy them, set them up. You got to be able to build them. You got to have a production team. You have to have a full engineering team, which is like autonomous driving is not easy at all. Obstacle detection. Then you have all of the data side of it. Of once it collects the data, how does it analyze it and deliver those reports to the customer? There's a lot to it across the board and a lot of work our team put into it. We've got a pretty big head start. So you'd have to be pretty passionate about chasing us if you think you could catch us in this particular race. We're at the point now where we're just deploying them as fast as we can. We've got a tremendous amount of demand. So it'd be pretty tough to catch us if you started from square one today.
I can only imagine the last thing you want is to fly across the country to find a robot that gone missing somewhere in the desert, and you need to find out what happened and why, and then explain it to the customer what happened there. So yeah, I can imagine how much attention it requires, especially in the beginning. But you've mentioned passion. So what is the most fulfilling in that space in the industry for you, or maybe in the day-to-day operations as well?
Well, nothing's better than seeing your product come to life, being delivered to your customers, and actually working and providing value that people rely on every day. We have customers and now it's part of their standard operating procedure, right? So that's definitely extremely rewarding. Anytime you can, hire some folks, get build a team. I love building teams and going after big goals. That's, I've always been a team guy my whole life and played team sports. So I really just enjoy getting a team together and trying to do something really tough, right? And to get the from ground zero to where we got to, it was a lot of heads down work and teamwork for a long a long time. It's a long sprint to really get to this point. But yeah, watching people grow their careers, and we have 50 employees now. So all these people have like really good paying, high level jobs that are they're operating robots, or they're servicing them, or they're building them. These are like jobs that didn't exist at all, right? Like, so you're hiring people, they don't really have any experience. So they got to learn and ramp up because it's entirely new industry. But I think there'll be a lot of applications long term, and for people to operate robots and build them and service them and all these different things. It's going to create all these different sub industries as things grow.
That would get me curious. What was the skill set or the character trait that you were looking for when you were hiring for your first roles in in your businesses? Like you said, it didn't exist pretty much out there, especially uh, you know not in the solar space.
Yeah, one thing really unique about this company that I think is pretty cool is everybody at this company, maybe now we're recruiting people, but for the first 25, 30 people, it was people asking to work here. So everybody who joined the company was somebody who saw what we were doing and like begged us to join the team. And so it was never, we never had I never had to push anybody. It was all really, everybody was like self motivated, and they came in, they worked hard. We've got some really hardworking people that set the tone for the culture here. Um, you got to stay really positive. Hardware's tough and there's a lot of challenges along the way. So you got to just really stay resilient. You need people, anybody who didn't fit that culture gets weeded out pretty quickly. Uh, I think we have a tremendous culture of some really smart people, and it's really starts at the top with some of our engineers that put in a ton of work and set the tone for everybody else at the company.
Now, what's the smallest system size that you think the robot or the owl could be a fit? And also, my next question was if you could explain the process that goes into it. Once you essentially reach out to you, or you find someone interested, what's the next step for them?
Yeah, for the robot, depending on like we've done 20 megawatt sites where we needed to do something really detailed, like capture every single solar panel. Maybe there's a warranty claim or every single connector. But I would say about 50 megawatts and up for a Bulldog starts making a lot of financial sense if it's not like a one off specialty project. And then for the Owlcam, really, maybe 25 kilowatts and up on any commercial building. We've been looking at making a smaller one for maybe residential rooftops because we've seen some residential fires on rooftops. And like, I don't know, maybe customers would want them. We're still selling mostly to the commercial and utility market there, but I think there's a play for even smaller systems and more lightweight style of the technology. And then the Alcams go anywhere from 20 kilowatts to 500 megawatts, where they have Alcams all over the site and they can see everything. So, um, yeah, two good markets for us. When we deploy a robot, we got to set the customer up. They get a digital twin map where they can see all of the issues that get found. All those get categorized. We meet with the customer on a weekly basis. We like to deliver the reports and issues like full work order. So if you find an issue, we fill in all the details for them and the specs and all of that. And we try to remove a lot of the admin work beyond even replacing somebody walking around the site, gathering all this information. The way that we gather it is so organized from a data perspective and automated that all that data flows right into work orders via API for some customers, or they use our service management platform. And then, we just keep up with the customer. Maybe we find something interesting on the site. There's some defect. We'll let the customer know, and maybe we'll the cool thing about the robot is that you could reprogram it every day to inspect something different or have a different mission. You could pivot in real time and say, hey, we were doing an overall inspection, but we found this one issue. We want to go dig into those real quick and verify everything's safe so we could kind of change the mission on the fly. And a lot of the customers now, the way they're working with is they let the robot go out a day ahead of them, find the issues, and then the crew comes behind them and fixes everything. And it's kind of got this Kaizen feel to it, to where now you can actually work your way all through the site, verify everything's fixed, and have that confidence that you actually addressed everything. Because sometimes these sites are so big, everything looks the same, and you kind of start to lose track of things because there's so many issues. This allows you to just kind of keep a good pace and continue to knock.
Zen, I like that. Small and incremental improvements that you can make into that side.
Yep.
Cool. So Derek, if you had a chance to sit across the table from your younger self and share some wisdom and piece of advice, what would you tell him?
Man, I think my philosophy's just always been the same since I was young. It's really just gather knowledge and experience. And then, that usually paid for itself. So I've never been overly concerned with how much money I was making. I always just wanted to like really stack experience, pick up a lot of hours, and become an expert at those things. So, I think you've got to take some chances throughout your career. But I always tell everybody, I'm like, you got to go be an expert first. Like I spent my time working for another company. I wasn't just like an entrepreneur right out there. Like I had to go learn how to do things. I had to learn from, I'd have mentors who taught me things. You have to like learn the way of the world a little bit before you could go start a company. So that was actually a lesson I learned from local entrepreneur who built this big mattress company and sold it for 300 million or something. I went and listened to one of his talks, and he was like, hey, don't go just start a company. He worked somewhere for like 10 years, figured out how it worked, and then started his company. So I always tell everybody, I say, hey, you got to go put in the work first. You can't just, nobody wants to work for somebody who has no experience or knowledge or of anything. Like you got to really go build the experience and build some like skill sets, and then you can kind of go start your own projects and build those up.
Good advice. I had one of my first guests on this podcast was part of a company that was operating for 101 years. So he's the fourth generation, and funny enough, he didn't start his entrepreneurial journey by working at his family business. He went into different businesses and then started gathering experience until he finally realized that probably this is going to be the smartest move. But in the beginning, like you said, he was getting experience from other places, finding out what's working, what's not working, so that you can then implement and improve. You identify bottlenecks, you identify the missing points, the gaps, and you can fill them with your expertise and experience. And they say it takes 1,000 hours or 10,000 hours to reach mastery or
Yeah.
become an expert in anything. So yeah, you have to put in some work first before you do that. Good advice. So what's next for OnSight? Where's the North Star, if you could
Yeah,
share?
right now, a lot of demand. So we're ramping up production, kind of figuring out how to manage things at scale is really the next stage of our company. How do we get more efficient and effective with everything we're doing now that we've got a little bit of consistency? Um, we're always looking at utilizing our existing technology and platform to build new products and services that'll help the industry. We think there's a lot of value in all the data we've been collecting, so we're going to mine that and see if there's some products and services there that we can offer. But yeah, really enjoying the ride. We've got a great team, we've got a great pipeline, continuing to build and grow. So we'll kind of see where everything leads, but we like to stay on the cutting edge of things.
I love it. And just right now, an idea came to my mind as you were. So I remembered not most, some of your recent posts. There's a lot of the cable interconnection. So I could see. I don't know why this idea came up, but a collaboration with manufacturers. Because if you could identify things, and for example, the angle here would be like the the technician was on site the next day, like you said earlier, fix it the next day because of the ease of the interconnection or the cables that they essentially provided, or anything else that would come to mind. So big collaborations, to essentially include Bulldog and the Owl on site. That would be some interesting collabs to see.
Yeah, we had, I mean, one of our investors was a connector manufacturer. We have plenty of manufacturers that actually utilize the robot to collect operating data of their equipment. So we'll have these meetings, and we know more about other people's products than they know about their own at this point. And so when we start to show that data, it's pretty compelling. And now they can use that data to build better products and kind of manage risk on their end. So no, you nailed it. Manufacturers are very interested in this information.
Absolutely. I mean, that information is everything. That's why a lot of merger and acquisitions are happening because of the data aspect. And if you have the data, you can build so many different products around it and benefit more customers, clients, and people as well. So yeah, keep creating those workspaces, interesting, innovative workspaces. I look forward to seeing what's next and follow your journey on LinkedIn. Maybe there's a YouTube channel in the making. I don't know, maybe some videos from on-site videos as well. Video production will be cool to see how the robots are operating, and maybe
Yeah,
even
we've
better.
got a YouTube channel. You'll have to check it out. But yeah, we've got some stuff on there.
Yeah, like live stream
Yeah.
videos from
Well,
on
what did I do one time? I did what's the where you stream like your live video games? What's the platform?
Twitch.
Twitch. So we did a live Twitch of the robot to where you can follow along and like be inside the robot and see what it's doing.
Yeah.
But we ended up taking it down. But yeah, I don't know. We've played around with some things like that, but at this point, we're kind of mature enough for just driving straight forward with our commercial.
No, I'll check out and then leave the link to the channel in the description as well and to your LinkedIn. So if someone is interested in following your journey or interested in the robots or Bulldog, whether it's Bulldog or the Owl, they can reach out to you directly. We'll also leave the beautiful website, well operating website. So great job to whoever built the website as well. It's very cool website, and it's operates very fast too. So with the amount of tech we have on our website, their videos and everything, it's operating pretty cool, pretty fast as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Matt. Yeah, thanks for having me, and it's great to see you again.
Likewise. Thank you, Derek.
Man.